Janice, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Janice is sharing her pregnancy journey with donor eggs at 46. But before we get started with her story, will you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, my name is Janice. I'm 46. I live in Western North Carolina. I have five children before my Remy, that is 3 months old right now, is my donor egg story. My partner has five children also. So together we have 11 kids, which is wild.
Sing. So you're 3 months postpartum.
Yes.
Actually, all of your other babies were in your 20s. So tell us a little bit about how those went. Were they easy? Were they hard?
Yeah, very easy. I got pregnant at 20 with my first,
Mhm.
and it was a very smooth pregnancy. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. I had a successful home birth with my first, and then with all of my other kids from my former relationship, they were all home births. I even
Oh,
had a
one.
set of twins. My 17-year-olds are the next youngest besides Remy, and they were born at home. My pregnancies were super easy. I was from 20 to 29 years old with all of them and absolutely no complications. Besides the first, they were all super quick labors. I had to really work hard to push that first baby out. But the rest of them, they came out with contractions. They were born super quick. It was so different than my recent birth.
Your fiance, how old were you whenever y'all got together?
I was 39 and he was 47, 46, I believe. 46, yes.
And so y'all started trying. What did that look like?
We've been together for 7 years. We started trying in 2018 when we decided we wanted to have another when I was 41. Unfortunately, he had a vasectomy. So
Oh,
we talked about it in January of 2019. He had a vasectomy reversal. Then we started trying immediately. And after about 6 months, we went the fertility clinic route. I was very skeptical of the reversal for many months, wondering, is that why we're not getting pregnant? So, the first clinic that we went to, we really did not like at all. It was very much like they just wanted immediately go straight to IVF. They wouldn't really give us a chance or listen to us. So, we didn't want to go there. And we found a different clinic and we proceeded with three IUIs from 2020 to 2021 that were unsuccessful. And everything really looked great for every one of those. I just wasn't getting pregnant. I had plenty of follicles. It was advanced maternal age, unexplained infertility. My partner has had fathered a lot of kids. I've mothered a lot of kids. So it was always just kind of this mystery as to why I wasn't getting pregnant, even though I am older.
so how long did it take to do the IUIs?
It was probably a year and a half. We did take a break for a little bit in the fall of 2021 to basically a year. We took a break of doing anything for about a year, but we were still planning. We decided to do IVF with donor January of last year.
Did you try with your own eggs or do an egg retrieval?
No, we didn't do that. Originally, our plan was to work with a doctor in up north in Connecticut, New York City, called Rejuvenating Fertility. We just decided to not go that route because it felt like we were piecing all of our care together from all these different places and clinics. And sometimes people can do that, but just thinking about the costs and then thinking about if we spend all of this money and we go through this process and it not work, will we be able to do anything else? We really wanted to be parents, and it didn't necessarily matter how they were going to could be conceived. A lot of clinics will not do donor eggs with your own eggs past age 45. So that was another reason, was because the clinic wouldn't do that. We just felt, no, we want to be home. We want to proceed with donor eggs. I have five biological kids. And so I just thought it would be honestly like kind of a cool experience. Like to give it a shot. The new research that has come out on donor conceived babies and what happens inside with how
Yeah.
they are not genetically your blueprint, but your genes alter the way that they develop. So if the donor and my partner had a baby, it would not be the baby that we have. It's totally different. It is my baby. There's three influences with the baby. There's the donor genetic material, there's the dad part, and there's me. So there's some of all of us in there.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because I know a lot of times we see women with children, and it's so easy to assume they can easily have children. And it's just not true.
Yeah. It was such a different journey for me. It was very taxing mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally to have been. I used to get made fun of in my 20s and my 30s that don't drink the water that she has. Like,
Yeah.
don't get too close. Fertile Myrtle. It was like, how can you be pregnant again? Like,
Yeah.
and then go from my whole 30s, that was the last thing on my mind was having a baby. And then right before I turned 40 with my new partner, it was the biggest thing on my mind. And I was like, this is going to be so easy. This is going to be no problem. And then to have had the struggle that I did was really interesting. And we weren't going to pursue it anymore. This was going to be like, we had three embryos, and we had one failed transfer, and then Remy. And if the third one didn't work, we're definitely going to be done.
Walk us through picking out a donor. How was that experience for you?
So our clinic has three different ways that you can go about doing it. You can work with their agencies, and they have two different agencies, and they give you the information to go in there and pick out a donor that you look through their whole profile and you pick out who you want, and then you actually pay for all of their expenses to travel to do the egg retrieval. Then they had a few fresh donors on site, people that were willing to go through that process, but they lived locally. They had that bank. That bank only had three people in it. Then they had some frozen eggs, and this would be from people that were working with the other two agencies. So they bought a half lot, which was 6 eggs, or if they have way more, then they just split it up even further. And they have 6 eggs frozen from somebody that were successful or not, and then just donated the rest to the clinic. So they have all those different ways. And at first, we went through the donor agencies because that was our first choice, was to look through all the profiles and pick. It was weird at first, but then it was just totally fine.
Definitely weird at first. You're online dating or something.
Yeah, it is. It's totally like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at first, we were really looking for somebody that had my physical attributes. We were on this mission to look as much like me as possible. We went through several. We had a couple not work out. We had one that we were super excited about. We felt like she looked so much like me that this was just the coolest thing. She ended up not panning out. After 2 months, she really flaked out, just stopped doing what she needed to do for the process. We're finally like, she hasn't gotten back to us in so long. I don't think this is going to be available anymore.
Uh,
So we're going to have to start all over. So it was 4 months of this.
wow.
Okay, let's start over. And then I emailed to the office just to check on their frozen eggs to see if they had anything. It was crazy. It was like, she was like, yes, we've had two different ones come in. And I looked at their profile. And the second one that I looked at, I was like, this is it. She's the one. I was like, she's the one. This is amazing. It was like I would have answered questions. I would have answered them so much like she did. The other donor that we had picked out for so long, she didn't even finish some of her questions. You never really know why people want to donate, but she didn't take the time to really answer anything. This young woman, she just had a paragraph for a reply. She's also a nurse. I thought that was really cool. Everything she had to say was so thoughtful and really sweet. I felt it. And I sent it to my partner immediately. He was at work, and I sent it to him, and we talked about it And I was like, yep, this is it. I said, I want to secure these.
That's awesome. And you got 6 eggs, 6 frozen eggs,
Yes.
and 3 embryos.
Yes.
That's really good. We only got 2 out of 6 eggs.
2 embryos.
Yeah. So 3, I think, is really good.
Did they let yours grow for 6 days?
I don't remember. I
It,
don't think so.
so with our clinic, they let them grow to the 5th day, and then they use what they feel like is the most perfect embryo. But then if the other ones are if they're still growing, they will actually leave them until the next day. So 2 of ours, so Remy and the one that we still have frozen, are actually 6-day embryos, which is cool.
Yeah.
The first one was apparently the perfect grade embryo that you can have. The picture was like this, just, it looked like a little mountain in the middle, and it was everything was symmetrical, and it just looked like it was like grade A, AA, and it didn't work. Yeah. And
Wow.
Remy was a BB. He was a BB.
Oh, wow. So what was the transfer like for you?
Yeah. So I'll just talk a little bit about the first one.
Okay.
The first one, when we went for it, the test that you have to get that I got was the hysteroscopy, where they just go in and look at your uterus, make sure you don't have any polyps, fibroids, things like that. And then they do a biopsy with the mock transfer. And the mock transfer is pretty much just for them to make sure they can get the small little catheter through to where it needs to go. And they check for endometritis to make sure you don't have really bad inflammation. So all that checked out, and I was scheduled to go, but then I ovulated through. I had to have a canceled cycle. Then they recommended me going on,
Mhm.
and that's an injectable that will keep you from ovulating, will keep your ovulation down for the next cycle. And so it was interesting because that was obviously never my problem, ovulating, because I ovulated through, actually 2 cycles were canceled due to me
Wow.
ovulating through them. So I was on all the meds when I still ovulated.
Wow.
I took the Lupron, and then the next cycle was not canceled. It was good to go. And that transfer, like I said, was with a perfectly graded embryo. And we really were super just thinking, this is it. Donor egg. This egg looks great. Like everything's going great. Everything's going to totally work. Did not think for a minute, like super positive. And then, yeah, got the call that it didn't work, and was just absolutely
Mm.
devastated. And just, how could this not work?
Yeah.
They immediately said, do you need some time, or would you want to talk about next steps? And I said, yeah, go ahead and let's talk about next steps. They said, we want you to do this test that shows more than the endometrial biopsy, but this one is the Emma Alice test. This test for inflammation, but it also tests to make sure that the timing of the progesterone shots is adequate for you, that your uterus is receptive to that. And it also tests for good bacteria and bad bacteria. And that was their recommendation, was to do that test, and then another mock transfer. We did that for that cycle. And I found out that I didn't have the inflammation. I didn't have any bad bacteria, but I had absolutely no good bacteria at all. It was like zero.
Wow.
I feel like I take really good care of myself. And I actually was taking probiotics every day and have been for years. But
Mhm.
apparently, there's different bacteria that live in every part of your body. There's very specific ones. The data sheet that they give you for your results actually shows what they're looking for, like what they test for. And I had zero, and I'd never even heard of these strains of bacteria. And so they wanted you to have at least one or more of one of them. And I had none of them. And they said, you can use a probiotic of your choice. We just recommend high quality and make sure it has these specific strains in it. The ones that I have been taking for years did not have any of those strains in
Mm.
it. So I started taking those probiotics, and then the next cycle I ovulated through again. It was canceled. I got on the Lupron again. And the next cycle was November 22nd, 2022. The first transfer, I was really scared about moving. And I had been started running with my friend and started exercising more. But I said, oh, I'm trying to do this and I better not be doing all this trying to get pregnant. So I stopped running. I stopped being active. With that transfer, I literally did nothing but just lay around and sleep and I just was careful of everything. But then the second time around, I said, I'm not going to stop exercising. It makes me feel really good mentally, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And so I was running. I did not lay around. I took one nap after the transfer. And then I started just running and jogging and doing everything that I would normally do. I didn't really think it worked. I was very much just thinking that it didn't work that time. I was like, I think that this is just a scam. I think that this whole thing is a scam. I was very hormonal. I was like hyped up on estrogen and Lupron and progesterone and the crazy wild mix of all that stuff. And they really do make you a little crazy. And I was just remember saying to him right before the transfer, I was like, this is just a scam. This is all a scam. I think they're just taking our money and they're sweet talking us. And why are we even doing this? What are we doing? And that's the one that worked.
So do you wait for the doctor to call you, or do you take a pregnancy test at home?
For 4 years, I've just taken so many pregnancy tests. And at both times, I just waited for the doctor. My particular doctor, you come in on the 8th day after the transfer, you wait 8 days, and then you come in and you get your blood drawn that morning, and then you wait for the call. And there's a call by the end of the day. They'll tell you. But they're just assuming that you're going to have taken a test. And I remember when I went in and she's like, did you take a test? And I was like, no. She's like, really? Did you take a test? And I was like, no, I really didn't. I can't. I don't want to do it. I have to get the call from you.
Do you remember your levels or anything?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I know that they're pretty good. I want to say it was like 110 maybe.
Okay.
I want to say that something like that, something like 100 and something. We decided to go see a movie, and there's a local brewery pizza place that we go watch movies, and it's a brewery too. And we were watching Wakanda Forever, and I had the phone in the movie theater. It's like, okay, the phone can't be like loud. Obviously, we're in a movie theater, but I had the phone right in front of me so I could see when they called. And we're like, I don't know, they might call during this movie, they might not, but we just have to do something to keep our mind off of it. And I kept thinking that if I'm not pregnant, I can't wait to have a beer. My nerves are shot. If I'm not pregnant, I'm totally going to get a beer and just relax, because this is the most nerve-wracking thing. Yeah. And they called and we went outside to take the call, and it was November and it was chilly. She told me and I started crying, and he was like, he was like, what? We are? We are?
Did your fiance come outside with you from the movies to listen to the
Yes.
nurse? Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome. And how did you feel hearing
Just so
you were pregnant?
excited, just so happy. I just couldn't believe it. And I would have these days where I would forget that I was pregnant
Mhm.
and be like, is this really happening? Am I really pregnant? And I would take another pregnancy test, and I have a whole stack. I just would take them and I would text them to my partner and be like, yeah, he's like, yes, I know that you're pregnant. You're definitely pregnant. I'm like, I know. I just keep thinking it's going to go away. Like, oh, just being really nervous the whole time and just really wanting it to stay.
What was the first trimester like?
So the first trimester was really good. I had no morning sickness. I had a lot of food aversions, which was weird. In my 20s, I never really had morning sickness either. So with Remy, it was the same way. I would maybe start to feel a little queasy, but as long as I tried to eat around the clock. I really tried to eat every 2 hours, some sort of snack that had a natural sugar and protein. That's what the clinic recommended too. And I think that really helped stabilize blood sugar. So that was good. I had major food aversions though. I'm a meat eater. I love eggs. I eat eggs once a day, sometimes twice a day. Could not smell an egg, touch an egg. Wanted nothing to do with eggs the whole first trimester. Didn't really want meat a lot. Meat repulsed me.
I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Eggs and meat. I'm like, get those away from me.
But I ran across this really interesting article that talked about like it's like hardwired in pregnant women to not want the things that could possibly make us sick. So like going back to before we were able to preserve and keep meat good and eggs good to eat and things like that, like we would be not able to preserve those. And like it was our body's natural way of keeping us from the things that could harm our baby. I thought that was really,
Interesting.
it's like our body really hasn't caught up with the times as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost gagged on a piece of steak the other day at lunch. I'm like, but I love steak.
Yeah, meat was just so weird to me. I couldn't really eat it until definitely well into the second trimester. And I was worried because I was like, I need to be eating meat right now because I want everything to be good, but you're totally fine if you don't.
Good. I was going to ask you, did you already know the sex from doing the embryos?
No, we decided not to do genetic testing of the embryos because the donor was so young, with my partner being 50. So we used his sperm, just saying, rocking it out.
That's
Um,
amazing.
but no, we didn't know the sex from the embryos. We didn't know until our first ultrasound, not the first ultrasound, but the first one where you could see the sex. That's when we found out.
How was that?
We did have the NIPT testing, but we just opted out of the finding out the sex. Because if you don't find out the sex, they don't test for two genetic disorders. And I didn't realize that. I just meant we don't want to find out, but they actually just left that part out. So there were a couple of disorders that we didn't know about. And I found out that later. And I was like, oh, okay. We didn't plan a big gender reveal, but we definitely wanted to do something. My younger daughter really loves to make desserts. She got these natural Tillamook Marionberry for the boy and strawberry if it was a girl. So they're not colored at all. They just have pieces of strawberry and a little bit of like Marionberry is just this very faintly blue berry, lighter than a blackberry. She decided to use food coloring anyway. So she's in there mixing up food coloring to put underneath the vanilla ice cream and trying to do this whole thing. And we were waiting and waiting in the living room. It's taking her forever. And then by the time we get it, it's like soup. I actually really thought I was having a girl. We had a girl's name picked out. We were talking about names, and she had said something like, and she's the only one that knew. So my daughter was the one to look at the ultrasound to know. And she was making this ice cream dessert for everybody. And she made this comment, and that's a really good name for a girl. And I was like, oh, she just messed up. So I know that we're having a girl. And I remember feeling like, no, I know, and it's not going to be a surprise. And so I was totally surprised when I got to the blue because I was like, oh my God, I'm having a boy. We didn't care, obviously, either way.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to wait until birth. We wanted to feel prepared.
So what ratio of genders do you have in your family now?
4 boys, 2 girls, and also Robert on his side has 4 boys, or four boys and 2 girls. Yeah.
How fun. We didn't talk about your doctor. Did you use the same one that you went to in your 20s for your
No,
midwife care?
no. So actually, so as far as transferring from regular practice from the fertility clinic, you have to put someone down to have your records transferred to. I purposefully didn't want to choose the big practices around here, kind of that they recommended, because I wanted to try, and even though my age and IVF, I really wanted to try and have the least interventions as possible. I just decided to go with our family practice. They have one OB/GYN there. And so that's whose name I put on all of the records to be like my primary doctor. But then I decided a few months in, we were deciding what if we wanted to definitely do that route or if we wanted to do birthing center or home birth. And we actually, like we were talking about earlier, actually our first choice was to go the birth center route. And we went for orientation and got our little packets and did the tour and everything. And then they called me to let me know that they were not sure if they could take us on, and they had to have this meeting about it. And then they got back with us and said that they couldn't take us on, being such a new practice and too many risk factors with my age.
Now that seems crazy to me, and I would love for you to say it again. But she told me earlier that IVF and donor eggs and her age risked her out of going to the birthing center.
Yes.
So wild.
Yeah, that's what we wanted because we felt like that would be a really good middle ground. I was a little more concerned because I'm older in IVF and there are risks in that. It was upsetting that we weren't able to do it. A couple of months after that, we decided to pursue a home birth. I got in touch with the midwives I had with my twins when I was 29. She's who I started out with, and she had a prior arrangement. So we definitely knew each other, and it was really a special thing to be able to link back up. She's not doing a lot of births anymore, but decided to take me on. But we still had our doctor as backup. Technically, North Carolina is weird. The midwife has to be a nurse midwife. So they have to be under a physician. And there aren't many of those right now in my area. Luckily, I had a really great doctor and she was very open. She knew my plan. I did agree to have all of the high risk ultrasounds, but there weren't a ton of them. I had to go to the practice for high risk ultrasound management, but it really was just ultrasounds. And then a high risk doctor would come in and explain my ultrasound to me. After everyone, that was pretty much the only thing. And nobody ever referred to me as geriatric.
Oh, that's nice.
Really great. Advanced maternal age was like on my paperwork, but my doctor never made a big deal about it, ever. She was the most laid back. She was open to a lot of things that I think a regular doctor wouldn't have been. We had a few ultrasounds, and I think it was our very first one. We found out that the placenta was lying low. And so that was normal for that time at 18, 20 weeks. That was normal. We would hope that it would move out of the way by the time I was 32 weeks. So I had a few more. By the third one, the placenta was still in the way. It had moved a little bit, but it was still in the way. So we had to have the talk of, what are we going to do? We would be planning a C-section also because of your age. We just really want to wait. Can we just have one more ultrasound? They agreed to do that in 35 weeks. It was moved out of the way. So
Good.
got cleared for vaginal birth at that point.
What about products? Is there anything that helped you during pregnancy that you can recommend?
Definitely compression. I did exercise my whole pregnancy. I ran 2 to 3 times a week until that placenta previa. They put me on activity restrictions for 2.5 months where I couldn't have sex and I couldn't do rigorous activities and I couldn't exercise for the placenta previa. By the time the restrictions got lifted, I was very pregnant and it felt a little weird to run. So I would just walk 2 or 3 times a week. But whenever he wasn't coming and I was 40 plus weeks, I started jogging again.
Just to try and get him out.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's fine. I can just jog now.
Yeah.
So compression socks were really, I had heard about them. I've never worn them ever in my life, but I'm telling you, they made the biggest difference to be active and pregnant. No swollen anything ever. The time I had swollen ankles was when I was on a plane. I traveled and I was on a plane. So besides that, though, I swear it was those compression socks. And then also, I actually follow, I don't know if any of your listeners follow her, if you've heard of her, but Amy Raup Fertility. It was like my guru from the time that I wanted to start getting pregnant. I followed her and actually really changed my diet. Got really into meditation, read the book called Spirit Babies.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that book. Read the Spirit Baby book and started following Amy Raup. And she has a lot of free stuff. She has a lot of classes and groups and things too that you can pay for, but she's got a lot of free information that's really amazing. So her stuff, yoga, ginger tea, lots and lots of ginger tea in the first trimester,
Yeah.
and acupuncture.
Oh, yes. I do love acupuncture. My appointment is next weekend.
I love acupuncture. I haven't been since he's been born, but definitely I'm going to go back. Probably 6 months postpartum. I'm going to
Mhm.
start going back.
How does it help you? Like, how do you feel better?
It's super relaxed. I usually
Yes,
fall
me too.
asleep during it. I would really, during my sessions, just totally relax, and I would try to visualize what was going on if I was trying to conceive or if getting ready for a transfer, or I would really try to envision what was happening inside of my body. And it was just such a sweet moment to just lay there and be envisioning that and then fall asleep up and just feel amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Now, because you had all of your other kids in your 20s, how did you prepare for this one?
I actually thought that I didn't really need any classes or
Mhm.
anything like that, which in retrospect, I wish that we would have had a class. We also were really, my oldest daughter was graduating. We had a lot going on right before he was born in the beginning part of the summer, traveling. I actually got really sick.
Oh, no.
And I believe it was just from flying, but I still don't know what I had. I don't know if I had COVID and I just tested negative or what was going on. Maybe it was just altitude sickness, but I was sicker than I ever have been my entire life being pregnant. And I think so much of it I just had to do with being on the plane because my sinuses just got all messed up and it was terrible.
Oh, how did you prepare for baby this
Yeah.
time?
So I guess just lots of meditation really helped, exercise. I did watch a lot of birth videos, a whole lot of birth videos, including my own. And
Fun.
just kind of thought that really couldn't have imagined that my experience of giving birth because I really just thought that I was really prepared.
Did you?
I wish I would have taken the classes because I think me and my partner together could have benefited from doing the class before
Yeah,
birth.
I could
Yeah.
see that. Now, how did it feel looking back at your birth 20 years ago?
It was very emotional. I went probably when I had all of my other kids, all of their births were recorded on VHS. And not just regular VHS, but like they had all these like mini kind of VHS. I don't know if you remember, like they had all these
Mhm.
different kind of camcorders that had all the different size. And so there were some of them I had never seen.
What?
My two kids in the middle, I didn't get their actual births because they came so fast. My second daughter was born from the time my water broke till the time that she was born in 2 hours.
Wow.
My third was like 3.5 hours in the very middle of the night. And he was actually born unassisted. His dad caught him because the midwives weren't there yet. So there were a lot of really fast births that I didn't even get to see the footage afterwards because we borrowed a camcorder. And by the time we had it moved, whatever, we just had this tape that we had to put in some sort of adapter to watch that we never got around to. This sounds crazy. So I went actually before I was pregnant, and I watched these days before we found out that we had a positive pregnancy test, which is kind of cool. But I got them all converted to a flash drive. And so I watched them all and I have them on my computer backed up and stuff now. So that's cool. But yeah, I was like, I felt really empowered and it was just really special and sweet. And I was like, this is amazing thinking about doing this again and just excited.
And pregnancy wise, how did this birth at 46 compare to your other ones?
It was a lot the same as far as my health. I was really healthy. I was really active, didn't gain a lot of weight. I was like obsessed with not getting gestational diabetes or hypertension. So I bought my own blood glucose test strips and I had an at home blood pressure monitor and I took my stuff all the time. My doctor actually let me do a natural test for gestational diabetes. So she didn't make me drink the sugar solution. She just made me have a certain amount of carbohydrates. And I opted to not do the quick test, but I did the 3-hour test like women would do if you had tested positive and then you were coming back, because there's kind of no question about that one. If you do the longer one, it's more definitive. And so I did that one. I can't remember how many carbs it was, but basically I had whole grains and natural sugars that equaled the carbs that I was supposed to have. I do think I tricked the test because I didn't realize I went for a walk because I had to hang out at the doctor's office for 4 hours or something
Oh
crazy.
God.
And so I ate and then I took a walk. And then for the second one, I was like just walking around the doctor's office. I never asked about it. I never said anything because I was like, hey, but I I passed it with flying colors. They were like, if anything, yeah, no, flying colors. It's like, you didn't even eat anything. That's because I
Wow.
walked. It's because I walked afterwards. I kept taking it throughout my whole pregnancy because I was like, maybe I did fake it, or not fake it, but fake out the test somehow. And I just wanted to make sure. So I would take it every day, all throughout the day, and my blood pressure, and never had any problems with any of that at all. So that was very lucky. So in that regard, it was good. I was probably more active than I was in my 20s because I did not used to really ever exercise or anything like that until I got older. Just, I would say more worried though, for sure. More worried, definitely more anxious, wondering, how am I going to do this? I don't even remember anything. This is kind of crazy, having a lot of just doubt and anxiety on my ability to do it all over again.
Mm.
And then I guess I didn't mention also my first trimester, what replaced morning sickness was definitely anxiety and worry and mental stuff. I was a mess mentally the whole first trimester.
Yeah, I get that. And so for the birth, are you ready to get into the birth, or is there something else you want to mention about the pregnancy?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Did you go into labor naturally, or did they start inducing you?
I was planning to start things along with my midwife at
Mhm.
around 39 weeks. I started taking homeopathics that will just help your body get ready, like to let your body know, I'm ready to give birth.
So what
Nothing
did you
so
do?
good.
Like red raspberry tea leaf, that sort of stuff?
So these are homeopathic. So homeopathic
Oh,
medicine, like the little pellets.
okay.
And there were a couple different ones, and I can't actually remember. I actually might have the little packet. Yeah, actually got the little, so funny. I've got the little packet right here.
Oh, fun.
Caulifilum, that was a big one. Caulifilum. And I believe caulifilum might be one of them. I don't know if it's so caulifilum and like citrifugia. And one of them is black cohosh, but it's not anything physical black cohosh, because I would not recommend anybody taking that. Some people do, but there have been studies that show adverse reactions with that. But the homeopathic version of that is, you're not getting any of the physical herb. I look at homeopathy as like energy medicine almost, which sounds real woo woo, but like I said, it either works for you or it doesn't. And there's certain homeopathic things that like I swear by, and others just don't work. Arnica cream, I don't know if you've ever used the homeopathic arnica
Uh,
cream, but I swear by that. It's for sore muscles and bruises, strains, like arthritis kind of symptoms. And that stuff there's nothing in that you would think would work, but I swear you put that stuff on a sore back or a bruise or and it like helps.
yeah.
So they didn't really work.
Mm.
So I was come 40 weeks, I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, this is cool. My doctor was like, okay, so what's your plan? My doctor did not want to induce me just because I was older or anything like that. She knew I was planning a home birth, and they do have that. Like if somebody's open to that, they'll do that. But she was very open to my plan. I hadn't had any complications along the way or anything. And she said, I just want to hear your plan. How long are you willing to go? And I said, I'm going to go 42 weeks. And then if I still haven't had my baby, I'll do an induction. And I just thought, for sure, I'm going to have this baby before 42 weeks. So at the 41 week mark, I decided to take castor oil. I'd never had any problems going into labor with my other kids. So I took the castor oil. I would also not recommend that. I have a lot of friends who that has worked for in the past, also did not work for me. And maybe I could have taken more of it, but I couldn't imagine have taken more of it because I had diarrhea for like 11 hours. It was awful. It was awful. So that didn't work. And this whole time I'm exercising, I'm jogging again. I'm just jogging with big pregnant belly jogging and just like running up and down my driveway. I have a huge long driveway and I was just doing all this stuff. I did a whole prayer circle to where I just really sat and said, I'm ready for you whenever you're ready to come. And by 42 weeks, I said, okay, I guess we'll schedule an induction. Right before then, my doctor recommended having fetal heart monitoring, which they would just normally do in a lot of pregnancies like ours, but I never really had any of that. But for the last week, I did have 2 sessions of that, 2 or 3, and everything still looked good. There was one time at the ultrasound place where at the very end they saw something and I had to come back in a couple of days and get another one, and then that one was fine. And she said, okay, we know we can wait another week. I just kept thinking it was so interesting. Every night I would feel like I was going into labor. I'd be like, this is it, every night, every night. And I'd be like, okay, but I'm older that I would get tired at night. And I was like not able to stay up to be in labor. But I felt if it's real labor, it's going to keep me up. I'm just going to wake up. So every night I would go to bed thinking, this is it. I'm in labor. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night or wake up in the morning and I'm going to be in labor. Then every night do that and wake up and then just feel totally normal the next morning and everything's like totally normal. And so, yeah, it did not happen naturally for me. And so I agreed to be induced at 42 weeks, 3 days.
Wow.
And so my doctor had mentioned something during my pregnancy that she had looked in my records and seen that I had a LEAP procedure for my cervix, on my cervix, because I had precancerous cells in my early 30s. And they don't even so much changes with gynecology. I don't even think they do LEAP procedures like they did them like 17 years ago. But that 15 years ago, I guess it was because my twins were 2, I had a LEAP procedure and it was for precancerous cells. And so they did a couple of things and they were still there. And so to be on the safe side, I don't regret doing it. I'm glad. I don't want to have cancer, but I had this procedure and are you familiar with LEAP procedures?
No, I haven't heard of it.
So they go in and they basically they scrape and then they laser off all of the bad cells that they see. But the way that your cervix has to heal from it, you can have a lot of scar tissue. And so my doctor had just mentioned sometimes when you have had that procedure, and especially because it's been so long, she's like, that may play a role into how you start labor. And I was like, oh, okay, hopefully not. Mine happened to be 15 years. And apparently I had a lot of scar tissue that really played a big role into me starting labor. So 42 weeks, 3 days, get admitted into the hospital. And my first thing I wanted to do, I didn't want to have Pitocin right away. So I had the balloon catheter that they do. And that is like a physical way for them to open up your cervix. They go in just like a regular urinary catheter, but instead of going through the urethra, they go up to your cervix. And as the balloon is really, they put it up there and then they inflate the balloon and it's supposed to help open your cervix the longer that balloon sits up there. It can stay in from 3 to 12 hours. It can only stay in for 12 hours. They say that it's supposed to fall out when you're dilated. The hope is to get you 4 centimeters dilated. After almost 12 hours, I was 3 centimeters dilated.
Ugh.
And they didn't really think much was happening at all because it wasn't just coming out, and they would kind of try and tug and it wouldn't come out easily. And then this one nurse actually came in and was able to tug just a little bit harder to get it to come out. And I was 3 centimeters. And so I was like, okay, so that was one day when I first got there. And then the next day, nothing. So I thought that would put me into labor. And I actually felt like I was in labor while it was in. And I was like, this is it. I'm in labor. And then they took it out and everything just started to go away.
Ugh.
And that night I could not sleep because I was so uncomfortable. Had those monitors that they want to keep the monitors on you, even though they're wireless. They're basically strapped to you. If you don't want the wires, then they strap them to you with the kind of this belly band thing. And it's just the most uncomfortable thing when you're 40 weeks pregnant to have something stuck to you and just itchy and so uncomfortable. So basically didn't sleep all that night, but I had a birthing room with a birthing tub. So I had a big tub in the room. The hospital that I gave birth in doesn't allow you to actually have a water birth, but they have rooms with a tub to just labor in, but you're not supposed to actually have the baby in the tubs. So I was using that tub to just try and relax and be able to go to sleep. And I must have gotten maybe, I don't know, I could not sleep that whole night because the monitors were going off. And I remember asking a nurse, can you please can I take these things off? And I think that's what it was. I was like, can I take these things off? I just have to get some sleep. Totally not used to this environment, like at all. Like
Yeah.
never did not want to have a hospital birth. And she finally did and got the okay for that. I took the bath. I was able to relax. I got a few hours sleep and then the doctor's in the next morning. My doctor's letting me know that she's leaving. And so the other doctor of the practice that I met one other time is going to end up being my doctor that I've only met one time. She is amazing. She actually worked for a different practice that was more like holistic based and that didn't take insurance. And it was kind of like a wellness kind of thing where people pay a monthly membership to go there. So she was great. She was really great. But just in that moment, it's not even going to be my doctor, all that anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah.
And then we talk about the plan. The plan is, okay, I guess I'm going to start Pitocin today. And thinking, okay, I really don't want to do this Pitocin thing. But this is where I'm at, ready to have this baby. And I was like, it's probably just going to take a little bit of Pitocin, not really knowing a lot about Pitocin, not a labor and delivery nurse. They start you at, I think, 2 or 3 units per hour of Pitocin, something like that, really small. They can go up to 20. That's just the standing order. And past that, they have to get, at least at this hospital, past that, they have to get another order for Pitocin. And I started Pitocin at 11 a.m. and I am bouncing on the ball, so excited. My friend comes to visit, walking around, didn't hardly eat any sugar my whole pregnancy, but she's just eat some Oreos, gluten-free. I'm gluten-free. That's something I did to prepare for pregnancy 4 years ago. And I've been ever since. Brings me these gluten-free Oreos. Eat these Oreos. You're about to go into labor. And this is what I did. And just all these silly little things. So excited, ready. And no labor for hours and hours. And finally,
Even with the Pitocin.
With the Pitocin, yes.
Wow.
Oh, and I guess I should go back a little bit and mention that my midwife swept my membranes 3 times. What? And so that's just where they go up and just try and dilate you naturally by just trying to go right up around your cervix, like where the bottom of the amniotic sac, and they just try to get that all moving or just activate it so that you'll dilate. And that usually works for people. It works for people a lot. And I was kind of scared to do it because I didn't want to go into labor so quick before. I just wanted everything to happen naturally. But we ended up before the hospital doing that 3 times. And then my doctor did it 1 time. And then when I got to the hospital, I had the balloon catheter and then the doctor did it again. Every time she kept checking and I wasn't dilating at all and labor was not even happening until so with the Pitocin, it got to 20 and they had to get another order to go up on the Pitocin. They kept going and it didn't start. My labor didn't start until it was up to 28 units.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like a lot of Pitocin. And thinking about it now, I would recommend anybody who's at the hospital getting Pitocin to request that they give your body a little bit of time in between, because you can ramp it up every 15 minutes. And so every 15 minutes, they were like, okay, you're not really in labor. You're not really in labor. Okay, let's just keep going. And then they hit that 28 mark, and I was just all of a sudden in labor. And it was like, I was really excited. And then it started, but it was like an hour, 2 hours into it, maybe longer. You have no concept of time when you're in labor. So I can't really know about time. But I just know that it went from like being like somewhat manageable to being like absolutely out of control really fast and backing up again. So with the whole process of these 2 days trying to go into labor, and this is a lot of information, like TMI maybe, but this is what happened is I was losing like tremendous amounts of tissue before labor. And
Oh,
I was having like a period, which bloody show is usually like this one thing, this one moment, or either right before the baby comes. But I was losing so much blood and tissue, like trying to get into labor. And it was because of my cervix. So my
uh,
cervix was like completely unresponsive because there was so much scar tissue. So I had like days of trying to get rid of all this scar tissue before I actually would start dilating. And,
wow.
and so I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm really in active labor because I don't ever remember like losing blood until right before the babies were born, or maybe just a little bit like the day before or whatever, what they call bloody show. But this was just so interesting because I kept thinking, oh my gosh, this is about to happen. This is about to happen. I'm like, nope. And it was just all night long. And the labor was the most intense labor that I've ever experienced. I was very much in that zone of, even though I was hooked up to Pitocin and fluids, which I'd never been before, and these monitors, I feel like I did a really good job really just being inside of myself and trying to hone in on the spiritual presence that was going to help me get through this. And I was able to do that for a good long time. But then somewhere at some point, it was just, I was so tired, and everybody around me was so tired. And it was like, I kept thinking he was going to be born. I was like, this is it. This is it. Because the pain that I was experiencing was like the pain that I remember having right before the other kids were born. And I said, people are like, how can you have that many kids naturally at home with nothing? How do you do that? I'm like, because they were fast.
Yeah.
They were fast. I was like, if I ever had to go through days in the pain that I had right before they were born, I don't know if I could do it. And that's really what this ended up to be. It was like, it was so long. It was like technically in labor for days, but active labor where it was so crazy, 12 hours.
Yeah.
I was so tired because I'd been going on, 4 hours sleep in the last few days.
Yeah.
And it was nothing like the pain that I experienced with my other kids. They actually did an ultrasound during my labor just to check on his position, and he had actually turned. So
Oh,
I was having back labor. He turned posterior somewhere on the way down. He was turned posterior, and I'd never had back labor before. And so I was having back labor, which is the most excruciating thing. It felt like a train was driving through my lower back bottom, through my butt, basically. It was
oh my
like
gosh.
they kept checking me and checking me. And I was like, I got to 7 centimeters and I just wasn't moving. And it just felt so long. We tried to get some nitrous oxide because I guess the hospital has nitrous oxide. They weren't able to get that. I was like passing out, and then with every contraction, just screaming. And I was doing the whole low moaning. I'm pretty sure I kept the whole hospital up. Everybody knew that girl that's in room, whatever, like she's like, it was just, that's all I could do for the pain was like, I could not relax at all. I was just trying to take naps in between. I was throwing up, nothing like having my other kids. It was just, it got so hard. And my midwife was actually, because my home birth midwife came with me to the hospital as my doula. So at the hospital, she was and we did all kinds of really amazing stuff. And it was just all this very beautiful, amazing thing until it just got so tough.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to be able to relax to get this baby out. You need to be able to relax. and I could not relax. The pain was so bad. I just couldn't relax. I had exalted all my efforts to just relax. She actually said, have you thought about an epidural? And
That's what I was going to ask.
I was like, how can my midwife be suggesting me get an epidural?
The
Like,
opposite. Yeah.
yeah. And I was very against it at first. And I must have labored for a couple more hours. And I was crying. I've just never been in so much pain in all of my life. And I thought at one point I got really scared towards the end. And that wasn't anything that had happened to me either. I was worried about the baby and I was worried about me. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. What is happening? I feel like I don't have the energy. And then finally I was like, yes, give me the epidural. Give me the epidural. But I was scared of the epidural. I've never wanted that because I'm just scared of that whole process. So that was really scary for me. My partner actually passed out as I was getting it. He was having a moment and he passed out, like totally fainted. So
Fell on the floor.
in his own lap, like
Okay.
not in the floor, but having to be so still. And I remember I just kept thinking, like, how am I supposed to be still when I'm having these contractions, and just praying, please just let me be able to be still and this whole thing be okay. And it was just so different. But man, I got that epidural. So one side of me did not get numb and I could still feel. And so they gave me a little more. And then I was like, yeah, definitely can't feel anything. I just feel this pressure when they would like touch. It's kind of hard to describe. You just feel like this pressure, but you don't feel any pain. And so I was like, okay. And I was so tired. I was so tired. I just fell asleep. And then I was like, oh, because that's what they wanted. They were like, maybe you just need to kind of take a nap and you just need to be able to relax. And then we'll visit this in a few hours. And I think my midwife also really thought I forgot to mention, they came in towards the beginning of the labor and his heart rate was doing some things. And they came in and were already wanting me to sign a consent for a C-section. And all these people were in the room talking to me about C-section. And I'm so grateful for the nurses that I had, because they just came right in, they moved me, and then his heart rate got back to normal.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so that was another thing, as the position that I had given birth in, or at least labored in for most of my other kids, was the hands and knees position, hands and knees with my head on the floor.
Mm.
And every time I would get in that position at the hospital, his heart rate would decelerate. His heart rate, we would have this, what they call late decels. And those are the ones that they worry about. And every time I would get in that position, that would happen. And so
Wow.
think about a home birth, that's probably happening, but you're not monitoring it. And then they're about to come out. And so it's okay. But in the hospital setting, you're being monitored the whole time. So I couldn't use that position. And it was so hard for me because that was like my biggest pain coping position, and I couldn't use it. I really feel like my midwife, that was another one of my really big fears, is that I thought I just didn't want to have a C-section. Obviously, if you have to have a C-section, or even if you plan to have a C-section, that's totally fine. But just like for me, I was really scared of that. I was just really scared of that. And I think my midwife kind of saw that coming, because I was so exhausted and because it had been so long. And I think that she was really looking out. She was just really trying to be like, let's just try and do this and see what happens. Even this is not normally what we would do, but
Mhm.
and so I fell asleep, and I honestly thought it was going to be a lot longer. And they were waking me up. It was like an hour later, they were waking me up. The doctor is waking me up. She says, you're 10 centimeters dilated. Let's push this baby out. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get to sleep for longer. What do you mean? So I was like, okay. I was like, I've never done this before. The total, you can't feel anything. So you're just laying there, and like legs in stirrups, like, and a million people in the room. And like they had the NICU just in case something was wrong with him. And like my mom was there. She had never been to any of my other births. My partner, the whole room of like the high risk people, and just the whole room was filled with people. And luckily, I think the lights were actually dimmed. They didn't have the bright lights on, which was very thoughtful.
Yeah.
My friend, one of my best friends, she was going to record the birth if we were having a home birth, but in the hospital, they won't let you record the birth. But I'm so happy that she did what she did because she totally recorded it. She just recorded it
That's
on her
great.
phone. Which is really special. I'm so glad she did that. So she shows up literally right before he's born and takes a video. But yeah, I had to push him out. And I was like, how am I going to push him out? I can't feel anything. And so they just totally, coached me through it. Okay, you're having a contraction. They leave the Pitocin on. So you continue having contractions. And the nurse would just tell me, okay, you're having one and time to push. I tried to use my really deep moaning skills instead of the other stuff that you can do apparently that's not as effective getting the baby out. I only pushed out my first child, being my first pregnancy and first childbirth. That's the only one that I ever actually pushed out. The other ones, they just came out with a contraction. I was bearing down and just and they just came right on out. So
Wow.
it was very interesting, totally different. I had to be coached, and he came out it didn't really take that long. Can't quite remember. I want to say maybe 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And it was just this most bizarre sensation. I was so exhausted. And obviously, it was like one of the happiest moments of my life. I thought he was actually never the buildup of him actually being born was like getting pregnant. He said it was like it took forever to get pregnant with him, and it took forever to give birth to him. He came out and he was super healthy.
And so, what was important to you after he came out? Skin to skin, delayed cord cutting, any of that?
Yes, all of that. All of that at the hospital. They really made a really big deal, which they should. It's something that you have to worry about. And of course, they don't want to be responsible for anything, but hemorrhaging. They talked to me this whole spiel. And apparently, I was a very high number on the hemorrhage index. It was almost like they just kind of manifested me to hemorrhage because they were just expecting me to because of all these things. So I had to agree for all these things that would happen if I hemorrhaged. I hemorrhaged, but not technically. But I was losing blood after birth, which you're losing blood after birth, but I was losing more than they would like to see. And so it became like a big deal right after he was born. So I would have liked him to delay cord clamping for a lot longer. My plan was to just have it connected all the way until we went home. But they had to cut it. It had stopped pulsating, but I think it was just like a few minutes after he was born that we cut it because I was losing that blood, and they were really trying to figure out for quite some time where it was coming from. And I ended up having to go to the OR shortly after him being born as well, because after all of that, I ended up in this situation.
Whoa.
Not bad enough to have to receive blood, but they could not figure out where it was coming from. So they took me to the OR just to be under the lights and to be able to get a clearer picture of what was going on. So I got whisked away to the OR, which was a whole other like frightening experience. And they let me he was with me nursing all the way up until I got in the room. And then the other nurse took him out, and I was away from him for probably only a little over an hour. But I was just so scared. So I will say, I work at a hospital. I am a nurse. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I did start in neuro. So I am comfortable working in a hospital, being in a hospital. I myself have never been to the hospital for any kind of care ever. When I was smaller, most of my family members, only time we ever went to the hospital was when someone was like critically ill. So going to nursing school and that whole journey of my career acclimated me into being comfortable enough in hospitals. But me actually I've never had any kind of experience like that. And I was just scared to death, honestly. I thought that it was like, oh my gosh, he's okay. Okay, I know he's okay. Am I okay? Am I going to be able to have this experience with him, or is something happening to me right now? But I was okay. They actually stitched my cervix, that dang cervix. That was like all the problems. They said they used the word tattered. They said that it was in rough shape afterwards, that it was very rough. It had to go through so much. And so I had stitches on my cervix. I've never heard of anybody ever having stitches on their cervix, but I did.
Not afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then they were satisfied with my bleeding getting under control and never had to have blood or anything. And so I got to go back and be back with him. Never been so exhausted in all of my life. But yes, cord clamping was important to me, but it didn't end up being like a big deal.
Yeah. You had a picture of your placenta. Did you save that or anything?
Did. Yes, I saved it. I had saved my placenta with all of my other kids except for my second. My daughters accidentally got it just taken away from the house by the midwives. They didn't know I wanted to keep it. But all the other kids, I have a placenta story. So my first, I ate his placenta with my first.
Pills or like something
No,
else?
we sauteed it with onions and garlic, and I ate it like liver and onions.
Did it taste like liver and onions?
I was a vegetarian,
Oh,
but I decided to eat my own placenta. I was very young and I was very into other cultures. I still am, and just learning about other cultures, and a lot of other cultures, that's what they do. They'll have a little meal with their placenta afterwards, and it's supposed to give you everything that you lost. I didn't feel as drawn to that or making placenta medicine because the placenta did not technically form from me. So I didn't feel like that was taking away from my body. I was very grateful for it, but I didn't feel like I needed to consume it. With my second, like I said, it got lost. The midwives took it, didn't realize I wanted to keep it. My third, I did do the placenta medicine where you char the placenta and you put it in capsules and you take that to replenish energy and things like that to help with bonding with your child and things. So I did that with my third. And with the twins, I just saved the placenta for 11 years.
how
It
did
was
you save it?
in my freezer. I was actually part of a Facebook group called I've had a placenta in the freezer for 10 years. It's really silly, just really silly. We moved a lot and my goal was to plant it. And I just never really felt like we were at a place to plant it. But the house we live in now, my twins are 17 now. When they were in the 5th grade, we finally planted it in the backyard under a blueberry bush.
Going back to your first one, I'm so fascinated. How did it taste?
It tastes really good. Like I said, I was a vegetarian, so it was super weird for me my family was like, why do you want to do that? You're a vegetarian. That's so weird. I'm like, it's from me. I was just really up for the experience. And I remember it making me feel really good. I don't know if that was just psychosomatic or what, but I remember feeling like I was also only 21 years old. So
Yeah.
no, I was like bounced back super quick, just like nothing after giving birth at 21. But I remember having a lot of energy and never really being tired, even though I wasn't sleeping. And just, I remember being like, wow, that's exactly what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as Remy's placenta, I decided to
Oh,
do placenta prints with it this
okay.
time, which is so we kept it in a cooler on some ice, and I didn't really get around to it for a couple of weeks. But you basically just take it out, and it's a very spiritual, like amazing thing. I would highly recommend it to save your placenta and really spend time with it because of different cultural traditions. They say that the placenta is like the twin. And
Ah,
I actually, with my other kids too, had placenta readings with them where they had one of the elder midwives in the community many years ago when I was having my kids, read placentas. And she would come and visit you and lay out your placenta. And there's a maternal side and a fetal side. And she would go over all the different, where you see all the different veins in the placenta. They look like a tree of life. And so they form all these different paths. And she'll go into the spiritual journey of your child based on what the placenta looks like, this representation of how they will be in the world and where they came from. And so I had that with my with my third and with my twins. And so I reached out for that, but I don't think that she's around, and she's not around this area anymore. And wasn't able to make that happen for Remy, but I did save it and do that kind of myself. Just look at it and really get my hands on it and just spend some time with it. It's a very spiritual, sacred thing to do. Just giving thanks and spending that time with it. And the prints, I didn't do mine in any really special way. There's all kinds of really fancy ways to do it, but I just got some big pieces of poster board and just made sure that I printed it on both sides. I didn't get the whole umbilical cord. So if anybody wants to do this at the hospital, I think that they take part of the cord and they do cord sampling and they test it at the hospital. And I never remember giving consent for them to do that. But I remember when I did clinicals at the hospital, seeing all the little cords in the sample cups. So I'm pretty sure not many people want to take their placentas home with them like me. So I think they just have always done that for years. And if you don't tell them that you don't want them to do that, they just do it. So I was surprised to see that the whole cord wasn't there. I only have a piece of the cord with the placenta, which I was a little bummed about because I wanted to have his whole cord, because I always have with my other kids, but I have a piece of it. And so you just lay it out all bloody and you make prints. And then I want to revisit it at a later time and paint and make a painting with it, but that'll be in the future. And then I just froze it to plant for later.
Uh-huh. I'm looking at photos online of placenta prints. And so you're saying that the blood is like the first print, and then you go later and paint it.
You can do that, or you can just paint it and do prints from the paint. Yeah, people do it all different ways.
I do like the planting it.
Yeah, I know it seems kind of weird to people maybe, but it's really special to me. I love it.
It's like giving thanks. Thank you for carrying my baby through this journey.
Yeah. And as we get older, they always talk about if you don't use donor eggs and you're older and it's your own placenta, they always worry about the placenta degrading. And then if you use donor eggs, they worry about your body rejecting it towards the end. This placenta is totally healthy and beautiful and normal. And my body did not reject it so much to where I didn't have my baby until 42 and a half weeks.
How was your recovery?
I would say it's definitely a lot less quick than when I was in my 20s, for sure. We had some breastfeeding challenges, which I was also really not prepared for. Prepared for in the sense that I've studied them and I knew what to look for. I had all this knowledge in my head of what to look for and what to do, but not thinking that would be me at all. Never really had any challenges with my other kids. Just kind of popped them on the boob and went. But definitely he had tongue tie and lip tie and just all these different things. And so it was pretty rough in the beginning. So there was that. And then even though I knew at the time from my birth, and especially now, definitely know that it needed to happen the way it happened, having total gratefulness for everything. But definitely right afterwards, after a few days passed, definitely struggling with the fact that, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't have him naturally. And if I would have just waited a little bit longer, maybe I could have just had him naturally. And so having that, and then just feeling like it did feel traumatic for me, the birth, even though to a lot of people that would not be a traumatic birth at all, but we're all so different. And we all have experiences and perception. And coming from the place that I came from, it felt traumatic.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
not what you really wanted either in the first place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just worrying about him. I don't remember being so worried and anxious that postpartum. So it took me a lot longer to kind of come back to myself and have a little bit more faith
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess. And just way more tired, like so much more tired. And my, like the soreness of my body, like from all the positions that I was in. And I was doing a lot of this hanging over things with my arms. And I was sore for 2 weeks. My body was sore from giving birth.
Wow.
Even though I exercised all the time,
Yeah.
I was sore and it was hard to do things. I was just a lot more sore. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you today?
Good. Yeah, definitely good. Definitely getting back, definitely not sore anymore. I
Mm.
wake up a little sore, honestly, every day from nursing so much and things and just being older, like my body's definitely more sore in general at times, but not sore from the birth.
Okay. Did we go over all your breastfeeding stuff?
So I could tell that he had a tongue tie in the beginning, just a few days after he was born. And he didn't have the one in the very front that like the doctors diagnosed, but he had a posterior one. And so I felt like that was going on, and I wasn't really feeling all that hurt in the hospital with that. And I just felt like he wasn't, I could tell that his latch wasn't good. I had really sore nipples. So I had like sore nipples, cracked nipples, so I was in pain nursing, and that had never happened before. So when he was nursing, it was hurting because didn't have a good latch, and I had already had damage to my nipples. So having to deal with that in just like the first few days after birth was like hard. So it compounded everything.
Mhm.
So I started supplementing with donor milk in the hospital, and that was super helpful. We still supplement some with donor milk. So he's exclusively fed with breast milk, mainly my milk, but we still use some donor milk. And yeah, that was just a very hard process, but I'm really grateful for donor milk. I'm grateful that we live in a community for that. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to go to formula as my first choice.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So
And
we're good with all that today, though. So I'm really grateful.
for the tongue ties, what needed to be like corrected there?
Yeah, so they do, we have an evaluation with a pediatric dentist. And so we started going to occupational therapy actually with him, that some of my lactation mentors recommended to us. And so they do body work with them. And then they recommend if they think you might want to be seen by a pediatric dentist. And his was bad enough to where they wanted him to go to the dentist. And then he had a grade 3 or stage 3 tongue tie and lip tie, which is one away from the kind of the worst you can have. And it just really limits the way that the tongue is supposed to do all of its things on multiple levels. And then later it can limit speech development. So it is good to have it corrected, I think. We got it corrected pretty early at 3 weeks. And it wasn't like the kind of night and day difference that some people have, but gradually over time with the occupational therapy exercises and things, it helped for sure.
Did they have to cut it or anything like that?
If they have a traditional anterior tongue tie, then they can snip it, but his was posterior. So like instead of right here, it's actually where the tongue attaches in the very back bottom. So he had a pretty thick little spot, and they laser it. So they laser it at the pediatric dentist, and it is very quick. They numb it and then they laser it. It takes 10 minutes, but it was very traumatic. He didn't actually cry during it. They take them into a room and you're actually not with them for 5 or 10 minutes. And that's really hard. But we didn't hear him cry. You can hear the cry, and we didn't hear him cry. And they're like, he didn't cry. And they're really sleepy afterwards. And it was so hard. Looking back, I would probably wait. Like if I have to go through that again, I would probably wait till he's a little bit older, because it was just so hard to see him in pain
Yeah.
with being so little. Like, they're okay. But then that on top of like all the other stuff that we went through just made it like, oh my gosh, here's another thing to be upset about and worry about.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah,
was totally
definitely.
fine. It was really just, he really only cried like that for 3 days, and definitely not all the time, just when we had to do his little exercises with him. And Yeah, long kind of recovery for that because there's about 2 months that you have to do these different kinds of exercises for them. But he graduated from all that.
Oh,
That is,
good. Is there anything else you want to add to your pregnancy or birth?
I don't think so. Let's see. No, it's funny because I wrote all this stuff down and I haven't even looked at it. That probably
It,
happened a lot.
it probably helped to write it down, though. Do you have any plans to have more kids in your 40s?
So we do have that one embryo.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how things go. I think that we're definitely open to it though. It's kind of funny. We kid around about Remy's little sister a lot. So I think we're like idealistically excited about that and want that, but we'll see how things go. It's definitely been a little bit harder in
Yeah.
our 40s, and my partner's 51 now.
So fun.
So
And you
we'll kind
have
of
time.
see how the next couple of years go.
Yeah. And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Probably, I would say probably the worry, the worry. Yeah, because before it was like I just had total faith in the process and I wasn't worried. And then having to go through so much to get pregnant and then just worried to stay pregnant and just worry. Yeah, I think just the worrying and anxiety piece for sure. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Of course, the labor was definitely hard,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like expecting that. And I don't think that everybody has to have a really hard labor in their 40s, but for me, it was.
And is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth?
Definitely, I think meditation for sure. I would definitely recommend checking out that Amy Raup fertility, checking out her stuff, especially if people have some underlying like autoimmune issues and things like that. I was having a lot of inflammation and a lot of things going on. And then the bacteria situation, I had no good bacteria. I would really get in touch with your health, kind of try to dive in and figure out what's going to make you the healthiest and to make it possible, and then just meditating and checking out that spirit baby book and seeing if there's a spirit out there for you, and if you are so called to find the spirit, connecting and just really getting really spiritual about it, and then trying to have the faith and trying to not occupy your time and not like obsessing over getting pregnant, finding finding what you enjoy doing. Like for me, for that last like few months, it was running gave me joy, and I was doing all the things but I wasn't thinking about them all the time.
Yeah.
It's
It makes a big difference too.
just finding the fertility clinic that you feel like hears you and that you feel comfortable with. Definitely acupuncture.
Oh, yes. I love acupuncture. Earlier, you mentioned that you had it all figured out. Do you want to go over that?
Oh, yeah. So I think when discussing how it took me so long to start labor and go into labor, the cervix the way it was, and thinking that if it was so scarred, then possibly sperm couldn't get through. Possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so just possibly. And because I didn't mention with all of my workup that I had I think it's called the HSG, that where you have and they go in and they just put the saline catheter and it go through or not go through your fallopian tubes to
Mhm.
make sure the tubes are open. So there's that test for tubal patency. So I had that test. The first time I had it was 2020, the fall of 2020, and it did show that one of my tubes, or no, it was both of them, that it showed that I had a blockage, and the dye or the fluid that they show goes through and it just disappeared before it got out. So they were like, okay, this procedure might actually help open it up, because it didn't look like they weren't completely blocked, and they were semi blocked in the part where they thought that it's better, because I guess there's another kind of blockage to where it's a lot worse. So it wasn't that one. But I decided to I also thought that I was dealing with endometriosis. And so I actually had a laparoscopy for them to go in and just check everything out and look at everything. And while they did that, just thinking this for sure, I'm going to have endometriosis because I had really painful, hard periods for a couple of years too during all the fertility journey. When they went in, they also did a thing to test for tubal patency, and they were totally clear. One of them was a little sluggish and they had to put more dye through, but it was considered bilateral tubal patency. It's fine. So I'd had all of these, basically I had all these tests, all the workup, everything always showed everything was looking normal. So I just wonder with that, all of that scar tissue and all of that blockage that I had, that maybe it just couldn't, sperm are really tiny, I know, but I don't know. Just
Yeah.
maybe that has something to do with it, some factor.
Yeah.
But
And what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
oh, I would definitely tell myself to just relax more and enjoy it. And I did it really and try to enjoy it for the most part. So I just wanted to add that something that's been so different about having my baby in my 40s is that I was talking about not having enough faith in the process and just wanting to relax more and not being so anxious. I think part of that anxiety stems from the internet and
Yes.
able to think about something, worry about something, and just look it up, and all of the information overload. That is stressful. So if I could go back, I'd tell myself to just unplug more and just really, I did meditate, but even more, just to have that faith in the process. And just, I feel like there's a lot of that pregnancy. The whole time I was pregnant, always looking stuff up, trying to learn more, trying to wonder about something, and it kind of creating this extra worry. Definitely information overload, big part of it.
And would you like to share your Instagram handle so we can connect with you?
Yeah, it was Janice, but it's JA_nice5. And that's what it is on Instagram. And I just have a personal Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story,
Oh my
Janice.
gosh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to share this story with you. So thank you so much.